Right. The talk and the discussion is done as instructed by Buddha. He has instructed that we have got to support the practice. And there are 5 supportive factors. They are morality, listening, discussion, concentration, and the insight. This time we are allocating for the second and the third supportive factor, which is listening, the discussion. And the last 2, concentration and insight, we have done to the best of our ability in the last 1.5 hours or so. Morality, we just refreshed our morality code at the start. And in addition to that, we try our level best to stick to those rules or guidelines in our day-to-day lives. So that's how we support the practice. And coming on to the listening supportive factor to start supporting the practice, we have selected one discourse of the Buddha. That discourse of the Buddha is called 4 Foundations of Mindfulness, which basically provides the basic framework for a practitioner. So 4 Foundations of Mindfulness, as most of you are aware, there are 4 bases introduced by Buddha, how you can be mindful, or the foundations that you can use to be mindful. And they are being mindful on the body, being mindful on the feelings, being mindful of the mind, and being mindful of the phenomena or the nature. And of these 4, we have already completed the first 3 and 1 section of the last one as well. So in other words, we have come a long way. Having said that, there's nothing to get alarmed. I'm revising, providing a brief summary of all what we have discussed, and that helps everybody. So if I start the summary of what we have discussed, starting from our breathing and walking, the 2 practices we did, or the concentration or trying to be aware of the lower part of the body and upper part of the body, what we do is we try to bring our attention to the body. We try to tame the monkey mind and have the focus to the lower part of the body and the upper part of the body. As a result, our mental process and physical process will be in one place. So in other words, the two components of any animal will be together. So that becomes an easy and efficient way of living. So when we practice these 2 techniques, walking and sitting, what you generally do is you develop a skill of having the mind always with the physical process, or having the mental process with the physical process. When that happens over time, your attention will be more with the body, and you will be aware not only of your sitting and walking or breathing and walking, you will be more aware of other postures as well. And over time, once again, gradually, it will cascade down to not only just the postures, 4 cardinal postures, it may go even to the semi-movements between the postures as well. So in other words, when you get up from the sitting posture, it is a process, and your attention will go to that process as well. Not that you will have to strictly try and do it. It may happen, or if you want, you can do that as well. And from sleeping posture, when you get up, again, it's a process. So your attention will go there, and it will go to such an extent. Your attention will be there in any way your body is disposed of. Right? And when the attention comes to the body in this manner, you start seeing more details of the body. So you may not just identify the hands, legs, the trunk, and the head. And since the attention is more closer to the body, since the attention is getting more and more inward, you may start feeling the coolness of the body or the heat of the body. You may start feeling the heaviness of the body or the lightness of the body. You may start feeling the cohesive nature of the body or fluidity of the body, or you may start feeling the holding of the body or the shaking and waving and trembling nature of the body. So when you feel these things, what they basically represent is they are the characteristics of the four basic elements of any physicality. So your attention goes to those basic elements of physics or physicality. So when that happens, if you may like certain manifestations, you may be uncomfortable with some manifestations. So when this attitude comes forward, it is now opening the door of the mind. It is not just the physical qualities of the basic elements. You are showing your attitude towards those things. So that is the opening of the mind, which we call feeling. And that is how Blessed One identified the second basis of mindfulness, which we call feeling. So in feelings, there will have three basic feelings. That is pleasant feelings, unpleasant feelings, and in between, which we call neither pleasant nor unpleasant. Right? So we have discussed these feelings in our day-to-day normal life, and also we have discussed these feelings coming up in our spiritual practice. And if you listen to our previous talks, you will be able to get detailed explanations to these feelings. And it's a very important juncture in the spiritual practice or in the practice of mindfulness. So when you open the gate of the mind in this manner, and what the Blessed One is asking us is not to react, because you have not been reacted to whatever happening in the body. You are able to get to the feelings, and when you get to feelings, what the Blessed One says is, even when you have feelings, don't try to hang on to or hold on to the comfortable ones or the pleasant ones, and try to get rid of the unpleasant ones, or sleep when you have neither pleasant or no unpleasant. Right? What Blessed One says is, you use that simple technique that you are using in walking and sitting, which is the simple awareness. So when you maintain simple awareness, you are introducing a new skill to your mentality or the mental process. And that skill is the non-reactional skill. So because of this non-reactional skill, these comfortable situations and uncomfortable situations loses their strength, loses their gravity. So when they lose the gravity and they lose their strength, the mind gets more and more activated. So you are able to see why you were basically looking for comfort, and why you basically didn't like uncomfortable situations will come into surface. In other words, in general terms, when there is a pleasant situation, you will like it. When there is an unpleasant situation, you will not like it. And when there is neither pleasant nor unpleasant, you don't know. Right? So that's the normal situation. Now, because of this awareness, you will know all these things and you don't react to it. When you don't react to it, they generally fade away because they will not be able to tease you. They will not be able to tickle you. They will not be able to trigger you with anything. So that non-reactional mentality digs deep into the mind, and you are able to see more stuff in the mind. In other words, what really were fueling this comfortable and uncomfortable situation. So they are basically the sensual desires we have, the hatred we have, and the sleepy nature we have in our mind, right? So when you go to the mind, deeper layers of the mind in this manner, we call it being mindful of the mind. When you try to become mindful of the mind, in other words, when you try to apply this new learned skill of observation, what happens is you keep observing even these sensual desires that come up and the hatred that comes up. And then you not only see you have a sensual desire, when you observe, you see that the same mind is having the ability to observe when there is no sensual desire. And the same mind is having the ability to observe the absence of hatred as well. So, in other words, in the mind, you start seeing that there is nothing called hatred and nothing called what do you call sensual desire. They are just things that appear, or in other words, shadows that appear in the mind. So the mind is having on one hand sensual desire, and on the other hand, the same mind is having the ability to know or ability to have a situation where there is no sensual desire. Similarly for hatred, and similarly for sleepy nature. So they are just manifestations or the pictures that get drawn on a canvas, right? So what we do is we don't see the canvas. We keep talking about the picture, right? So you start seeing this duality, you start seeing the whole range, you start seeing the whole spectrum, and that ability to see becomes the spiritual part. So then you start understanding that mind is not only having this negative side, mind is also having a positive side, which is knowing the path to see these things, right? So by knowing the path to see these things, when you are aware of that, and then you start seeing that also does not stay forever, that gets once again affected by sensual desires, hatred, and that path that you are developing get shattered. But to see those things, your mind is now much more quieter, much more sharper, much more non-reactional. So you start seeing finer details, finer happenings, finer manifestations of the mind. So in other words, it gradually goes into a new skill of the mind, which we call unaffected mind, or the liberated mind, or we call it even equanimity. So when our physical process and mental process is observed, these are the gross layers, mind you, is observed in this manner, your mind is now very sharp, and that sharper mind now is able to see the finer layers of our existence. When I say finer layers of existence, the same physical and mental process are having finer layers. And those finer layers had not been identified before Buddha. What Buddha did was, he took these finer layers out. So that is what we are discussing now, which we call the last basis of mindfulness, which is being mindful of the nature or being mindful of phenomena. And in some translations, they call it being mindful of mental qualities, which I really don't agree, because that section not only has mental qualities, majority of them are mental qualities, but it also having physicality discussed. So therefore, it is not really mental qualities. It is mainly the nature or the phenomena. So before Buddha, this phenomena was never touched. This phenomena was never handled. This phenomena was never tackled, right? What they did was they were holding on to whatever the object, maybe the walking or maybe the breathing, or if there is any other object, they were holding on to the object and never allowed this phenomena to come up and see. So of those phenomena that we have discussed in this section, we have discussed the first chapter or the first paragraph, which we call the hindrances. And the hindrances, the 5 hindrances we discussed, the sensual desire, ill will, sloth and torpor, agitation and worry, and skeptical doubt. These 5 hindrances were blocking the actual wisdom. Why they were blocking actual wisdom was because they had suppressed these 5 hindrances by keeping the attention as much as possible onto the object. So therefore there was no opportunity for these 5 hindrances to come up. So therefore, before Buddha, they did not, they saw them only before developing the practice as a defilement. So when the practice is developed and those defilements turns into our nature and they were not able to see that nature, they had suppressed those things as the rubber ball in water. So what Blessed One did was, he did not hold on to the object. In other words, he did not ask us to develop concentration, bold and highlight, right? And underline as well. Buddha did not ask us to develop concentration. He asked us to develop mindfulness. By developing mindfulness, when the object is changing, we are able to awaken into the changing object. So when we awake into the changing object, what happens is we develop a much sharper concentration than the concentration on one object, right? So in other words, Buddha is developing concentration using a different technique, using different method, right? So develop that concentration, he's using mindfulness, right? So because of that approach, since he is not holding on to anything, he started seeing this nature. What nature? These 5 hindrances are coming up. Then his mind was equanimous enough, sharp enough, finer enough to see that they are not permanent. They come up and then gradually fade away. And once it is gone, it is gone. Another will come up and it will fade away, right? So he allowed that to happen without being part of it, and then his mind becomes even sharp, right? So that is what we discussed in the last meeting. Today, we are going on to the second chapter, right? So in the second chapter, can you access, use access to insight, and it has a bit of, and I will request Chatu to read that paragraph so that we can get into the new topic.
Yeah, there's mind objects, then it talks about the 5 aggregates after it. In this way, he abides contemplating mind objects as mind objects internally, or he abides contemplating. Okay. Again, bhikkhus, a bhikkhu abides contemplating mind objects and mind objects in terms of the 5 aggregates affected by clinging. And how does a bhikkhu abide contemplating mind objects as mind objects in terms of the 5 aggregates affected by clinging? Here a bhikkhu understands, such is material form, such is its origin, such its disappearance, such is feeling, such its origin, such its disappearance. Such is perception, such its origin, such its disappearance. Such are the formations, such their origin, such their disappearance. Such is consciousness, such is origin, such is disappearance.
All right. Thank you for that. Now, this section is called 5 aggregates, or clinging to 5 aggregates, right? So this is the 5 aggregates. If I signpost again, the 5 aggregate they are mentioning here are material form, which we call rupa in Pali, feelings, which we call vedana, and perceptions, which we call sanya, and the mental volitions or fabrications, sankhara, and the consciousness, which we call vijnana, right? So those are the 5 things we have. In other words, when you look at these 5 things, first one, form, material form, we have already done in body mindfulness. But here they are giving it again, which is a finer layer. And the other 4, feelings, perceptions, mental fabrications, or the mental volitions, and the consciousness, all 4 are mental processes. So in other words, the Blessed One is taking the body, feelings, the mind, those 3 which we have already gone through, once again in a different form, right? And it is a finer form, and it is the nature. It is shown under the section nature. You can properly see that. You can properly see these are coming up only when you are not affected by hindrances. If you keep talking about hindrances, then you won't be able to see form, material form, fine material form. You will not be able to see how the mental processes are working. Right? So since you are able to go through, not that the hindrances are completely gone, they are there, but now you have the skill to go through them, right? See through them. And therefore, you see there are other things even under the hindrances, right? So those things, these are the 5 things which we will discuss in detail. And the title or the term that is used to explain, identify these 5 things are called clinging aggregates, right? And in some translations, they say attaching aggregates, and I prefer the word clinging aggregates. And if we talk a little bit more about them, we will first try to understand the word clinging, right? Why they call it clinging. And it's, if you say clinging is, we know what clinging is. There is no need to explain it. But here, it's a bit different in the sense, it is not the literal meaning like hindrances. Hindrances, we know what hindrances are, but it had a broader meaning in Blessed One's explanation. Similarly here, it has a broader meaning. And the clinging here means the strong holding onto these 5 things. We don't know. We are holding on to the form, we are holding on to feelings, we are holding on to perceptions, we are holding on to fabrications, we are holding into consciousness, even without our knowledge. Just to give a simple example, what we do from morning to evening is try to keep this form as possible, as clean as possible, as nice as possible, as slim as possible, as fit as possible, right? As healthy as possible. That is because of clinging. And we don't, it is not to say that we should not do these things, but we are doing it to in an excessive manner. That is how all these industries have been developed. That is how we take even insurances to protect them, and we justify doing that as well. We don't know that we are clinging onto these things. We don't know that all these things are changing and we have no control over it, right? So therefore we cling on to these things, these 5 things. And by clinging on to those 5 things, we presume that they provide some safety, right? So it's like when you cling on to these things, in whatever manner, it provides a safety. Say, for example, if you are caught up in flood, right? In a flash flooding, we have seen people go onto the roof of the house or roof of the vehicle and cling on to that, right? So our existence is also a flood, right? There is no fraction of a second that reappears. It goes like a flood. It goes very fast and it does not come back, right? So it's like in that process, we just try to keep clinging onto our body, keep clinging onto our feelings, keep clinging onto our perceptions, clinging onto whatever we do, and the consciousness without our knowledge, and therefore we don't know that we are clinging, right? So, and or similarly, when you're caught up in a storm, same thing. We try to cling on to whatever we have, right? So that in storms, say for example, if you are holding an umbrella may try to take you, but you will try to hold on to that as quickly as possible, as fast as possible, as hard as possible, so that you will be safe. So we think by having this, by clinging, we have a safety, right? And it's like Buddha has given some similes to explain them. By clinging on to those things, what basically happens is we just tire ourselves. We just make ourselves more and more suffer, right? And we enjoy that suffering because we presume that it provides a safety, right? The simile that the Blessed One is giving is, it's like a dog biting a bone, right? When a dog is thrown a bone, what happens is there will be some flesh in it, and he keeps chewing that. And after all the flesh is gone, he still keeps biting the bone. He will never throw it away, he never leave it. He doesn't feel that there is nothing more to it, but still keep biting it. And what finally happens is its mouth starts bleeding, and when it starts bleeding, he thinks that this bleeding is coming from the bone, and he keeps keep biting it more and more, right? It's the same thing we do by clinging onto this form, by clinging onto feeling and all these 5 aggregates. They keep changing. We have absolutely no control, but we keep trying to control, and like the dog biting this thing, we think, okay, it is under our control and we are doing everything fine. We are very happy and everything goes perfect, and I'm the boss and everyone else is not, right? So the Blessed One says, we are caught up like monkeys trying to check the puppets, right? Now, during Buddha's time, when monkey hunters were hunting monkeys, what they do is they use type of a glue and make puppets, small babies, and use that as a trap and keep that on the way the monkeys move, right? So when some monkeys, they're usually curious, and when they see a baby-like figure, they just go and slap it or hit it or touch, and their hand gets glued. And then hit with the other, that also gets glued. And then kick with the right foot, left foot, and all the four limbs are now on the trap, right? Then it hits with the head, stuck, right? So the hunter comes and do whatever it wants to. It's the same thing happening to us. We are stuck to 5 aggregates and we don't know we are stuck. Right? So that is the sort of clinging that we have to these 5 aggregates. So that clinging, the Blessed One says in one of the discourses, it's fueling the existent process, right? Our existence is due to cause and effect, right? Because of a particular reason, some effect is there, and that effect becomes the reason, and another effect comes, and that effect becomes the reason, and another effect comes, and it has dependent origination, right? So that dependent origination that the Blessed One has explained is we usually don't know what's going on, and which we call the ignorance, and that ignorance is leading to mental volition. And because of the mental volitions, consciousness arises. Because of the consciousness, these 5 things, which we call name and form, arises. When name and form arises, for them to be activated, the 6 sense bases, ear, nose, throats, things like that appear. And then because of the 6 sense bases, when there is an ear, it can see the outside object. So that is called contact. So because of the 6 sense bases, the contact happens. Because of the contact, then you know it is good, it is bad. So the feelings start. So when there is a feeling, you start liking or disliking it. So then the craving starts. When the craving is there, you try to cling on to that, right? So in the dependent origination, this clinging is a main part that starts with the appearance of the name and form based on the consciousness, right? So it is just the technical part. I'm just explaining the gravity of it. And the Blessed One says the clinging onto these 5 aggregates is fueling the burning fire. If you don't cling on to it, they are there. Then it will not be fuel, right? So that is what he's trying to teach here. Such is, such is, such is. So don't cling, right? So we'll come to that later. So this is how the clinging happens, right? And if I go one more step further to explain what actually clinging is, when you take anything, Blessed One says in some of the discourses, like the advices to Rahula, who is his son, he says for anything there are 11 aspects, 11 shades, right, of anything, right? So these 11 shades are based on time dimension, space dimension, and the mental factors, right? So based on the time dimension, the first one is the past, present, and the future. So it's for anything you have past, present, and the future. And another one is for anything, there will have internal, external, right, which is based on the space dimension. And also it will have Hinang Pranita, pleasant, unpleasant. If there are things, you may either pleasant or it may be unpleasant. And also the nature of things will be gross and fine. Certain things are gross and certain things are fine. And another thing is those two are mental factors. And the other one is maybe far or near, right? So those are the 11 things that is there as the nature for anything, right? So these 11 things are there even for form. 11 things are there, or 11 natures are there for feelings, fabrications, and perceptions, and the consciousness. Although we have these 11 things as the nature, how clinging happens is we don't accept the nature. What we accept is only what we want. 11 things are there, but we may be accepting 3. Or maybe we may be accepting 5. So what happens? We go against the nature. When you go against the nature, you will have to keep fighting to hold on to what you like. That is how the clinging happens. And when the clinging happens in this manner, because of the rejection of the nature, there is a reason why you don't accept, or why you don't accept all the 11 facets of the nature, right? And why you reject some of the facets of the nature. They may be because of sensuality, right? Because you want to keep your sense faculties satisfied as much as possible, right? Because that you don't like gross part, you like the finer part, right? You don't like the far ones, you like the near ones, right? So for one or the other reason, one factor that you will cling, or that you will reject some of the things in the nature, some shades of the nature, is because of sensuality, right? So we call it clinging for sensuality, right? And the other reason for the rejection is clinging because of your view, right? So you may have a view that the world is created. There is someone controlling the world. You have a very strong view. Because of that, certain things you don't accept. You don't say, no, it cannot be changing. It has to be this way, right? And that is how the world is working. And we think then we can change everything. And for each and everything, we use the concept of getting rid, right? Mosquitoes are there. How many products are there in the market? Because we don't want mosquitoes. Termites are there. Exterminate, right? We don't want them. Every animal is for the benefit of human beings. That is the slogan, right? So those strong views are there in the world. As a result, we cling on to the things we like and reject some of the things in the nature, right? And that's another reason for the rejection of some aspects of the nature. And another reason is because of our rituals, right? So even in Buddhism itself, there are certain rituals. We say we will have to do this things. We should have these things. Then only you can practice. I'm not talking about other religions. In Buddhism itself, there was a time they said, I mean, it is of course not a ritual, it is of course a view. They say that you can't attain enlightenment nowadays because there is no Buddha. You'll have to wait until the next Buddha comes. That was a view, sometime back about 50 years ago. And after that, some monks in Thailand, monks in Burma, monks in Sri Lanka got together, and especially Burma, and they showed that it is still possible. And when it was showed to the world, things that were the experiences that were coming up in the body and the mentality, people very badly rejected and very heavily criticized worldwide in world-renowned magazines, right? But still, these practitioners never gave up, and they came up through all those criticisms. They kept on practicing. Unfortunately, we had the practice today, right? So those strong views were there even for Buddhism. And when I say for rituals, and now there is a very strong belief in Buddhism that there are 4 types of practices that we will have to do before practicing any meditation. Right? But Buddha does not say anything in the 4 foundations of mindfulness. They say we have got to recollect the qualities of the Buddha, recollect the qualities of the Sangha, and do foulness of the body, and then do loving kindness meditation. Then only you should do this. That has become a ritual, not among those who just come to the temple and offer flowers and go. It has become a ritual even for the practitioners. And like that, there are many rituals, right? And some people say, unless you worship Buddha, unless you are a Buddhist, you can't do it. They have become rituals, and you cling on to them so much. And in Sri Lanka, especially today, nowadays, they are holding on to something called it's a strong will, that only Buddhists can do this. Nobody else can do this. But my teacher is going very strongly against that, and he's showing so many people are doing it from all other religions. And there are people from Muslim community, there are people from Christian and Catholic community, there are people from Hindu community in his monastery and practice. Right? So, and the other reason that you will reject these things is clinging to our personal identity. We think for anything, we are the boss. We can change, right? So because of that strong identification with egoism, we think we can do anything. So because of these things, we reject some of the facts or some of the sections of the nature or some of the facets of the nature, and we try to take ours only, right? So that is how the clinging happens. And then we are talking about not just clinging, we are talking about clinging aggregates, right? And what do you mean by aggregate? Right? Aggregate, it has, I will explain it in 2 different ways. One is, here we are talking about 5 things. But when we take a living being, we don't see 5 things. We just see 1 unit. What the Blessed One is doing is, gradually when your mind is sharper, he's training us to see the form separately from the mental processes, and to see feeling separately from the physical process and other mental processes, to see the perception separately from the physical process and other mental processes, right? So he's creating this sharper mind. He's asking us, promoting us, advising us to use this sharper mind to see the gaps between this unit called I. So it is not just physical process and mental processes. Physical process, yes, it is form. And when you get to mental process, in mental process, there are 4 things that are happening: feelings, perceptions, mental fabrications, and consciousness, right? And your mind is now sharp enough to see these things, right? But when we look at something, we don't see anything like that. It's all one. And if you go and tell somebody, it is you are just a form and the feeling and perception and all these 5, they will say, what's wrong with you? We haven't heard anything like that. And it's me, right? But once you come to this stage, once you have gone through the body, feelings, and mind, then we can talk about those things, right? You can't talk about these things who have not at least sat for 10 minutes, 15 minutes, and walked for 10 or 15 minutes, because they don't have the mental readiness to understand, let alone understand, to listen to this. Right? Okay. So that's one way this word aggregate can be explained. The other way is, it is so much. We call it, in Pali, we call it skanda. Skanda means a huge mountain. Huge mountain of what? Forms, feelings, sensations, or rather, sorry, perceptions, mental fabrications, and the conscious. How is it a huge mountain? Blessed One says, when you say form, we simply say, okay, it is form, right? He says, it's our connection with the world is having internal form as well as external form, right? Internal form are the 5 faculties we have. Yeah. Eyes, nose, throat, body. If I said 5. Right. And if you take just eye, that's just one faculty, internal form. How many external form can it have? Can you give a number? Trillions. Trillions. I alone can have trillions of forms outside, right? And all these trillions are having these 11 facets. So trillion into 11. So much just for the eye. So therefore, it's an aggregate. It's so much. Our faculties don't have a bottom in the mind. However much you put, it will never be happy. It will never be happy, right? So it's so much of things we are carrying, we don't know. So it's just for the eye. And similarly, for the ear. Sound is also, according to Blessed One, is a form. It's a sound wave that comes to the ear. So it's a form. How many forms we have? We have classic form, we have jazz form, we have rap form. What else, Shatu? So, there's so many forms, right? It's just alone songs only, right? And female voice, male voice, and birds, other animals. And if you take birds, so many types of birds. You take other animals, so many types of animals. So again, so many sounds we have. Similarly for taste, the Chinese taste, Indian taste, Australian taste, Sri Lankan taste, Turkish taste, Mongolian taste, all sorts of tastes, right? And for those tastes, it's not just one dish. Different restaurants will have different menus. And they will ask spicy, light, mild, extra, all varieties are there, right? So it's again trillions and trillions into 11 into these 5 faculties. So we don't know that we are carrying so much just with form. And each one of these are having a feeling, perception, mental volition, and a consciousness. So therefore, it's a huge aggregate, huge aggregate. And this is not about being mindful of the 5 clinging aggregates. This is just the introduction to the word clinging and aggregates, right? So we will have to take the 5 separately, right? And then understand these 5 in very detail, right? And relating to our practice as well, not just theoretically understanding. We can relate it to our practice. How we understand form, how we understand feelings, how we understand perception, fabrications, and consciousness, and how these relate to this dependent origination, right? And still, by seeing all these things, how do we go through this as well? Blessed One is not asking us to get rid of them. He does not have that at all. What he simply teaches us is to be smarter, not to get caught up in these things. You may have seen those who have gone to subcontinent. They may have seen tri-shows, three-wheelers, right? They don't clear the traffic in the road. Any traffic, they will go to the top. They will go to the signal light straight away. If it is signal light, zin, 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 he's in front, right? And like that, Blessed One is teaching us to drive a three-wheeler in this traffic of 5 aggregates. Don't get caught up. You just overtake them and go forward. And this is why when Blessed One gave the first discourse about his teaching, and it was heard, they say in the discourse, by other realms. When they heard, they say they have started shivering. They have started shivering of his teaching, because they have thought that they are permanent, because some of the realms above human realm are having creatures living for long time. So they thought they never pass. So when he was preaching that everything is impermanent and everything is Sati, they started trembling. And it has heard, I think about, I don't remember the number, some 20 or 30 odd realms, right? So just imagine someone like Buddha, a human being. He's not a divine being, a human being, not born. We will be forever in this cycle of dependent origination. We will keep enjoying suffering. We keep enjoying suffering, right? So he was born in India when people were trying to come out of suffering. That is when he was born. Before he was born, he checked whether that time period is suitable for him, right? You may feel that it is a bit myth, or it's a bit not practical, but the literature says he has checked whether it is a suitable time for him to be born. Then one thing he has checked is whether there are at least people trying to end the suffering. Right? He didn't want to come to a world where he had to promote the teaching. He came to a world where there are people trying to come out of suffering. And that is why there were so many teachers, even when Buddha was born. They were practicing meditation, and even in this particular discourse was delivered in a market town called Kammasa Dhamma in India. And people in that town have been practicing. For them only, Buddha went and said, all what you do is not liberating you, although you are trying to liberate yourself. This is how you liberate, and be mindful, right? Come out of concentration and be mindful, and gain concentration through mindfulness. So therefore, the Blessed One says, it is very rare. Birth of a Buddha is very rare. And the second rare one is having a human life. Having a human life is extremely rare, right? See the span of living beings that we know. We are not an ant, we are not a termite, we are not a dog, not cats. We have the ability. You smile when I said cat. Yeah, we have the ability to hear this. Other animals don't have. And not only listen to it, we have the ability to understand it. We not only just to understand, we have the ability to put into practice and have results. right? So even hearing Dhamma is also a very rare thing, the Blessed One says, right? Because there are so many religions and so many beliefs. Right? Hearing this is also very rare. See how many people come to the temple today, but how many are here? I'm not just taking the larger population. That is so rare, and they just come and offer some flowers and incense sticks and say blah 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 and go. Will never be liberated. Will never be chanting. Will never be liberated. I mean, it's better than singing a song, but it's not liberation. It's better that they have faith. Having faith is not enough. That faith will be activated, or it will have some value only if you make an effort. If you make an effort, you will make the effort to put into practice what they chant. That is how I turned into the practice. Because when I was in Bahrain, we had a chanting group. Every month, they get together and we have books and keep chanting, and then have dinner and go home, and the next weekend, everyone gets together and drink. So something is wrong here. And then I started looking. I did not know the meaning, to be frank, those days. I started reading the meaning. Then I felt, oh, wow, there is nothing to keep chanting here. There is something to do. Then only I started the practice. There were no teachers, started reading books, looking for teachers, talking to people, and gradually came out of chanting and put into practice, right? So therefore, this is something that we can do, right? In other words, Blessed One is giving the key to you. You will have to open your own gate of the liberation. There is nobody upstairs or downstairs or anywhere on the left or right or center that can help you. It is you yourself. You have the ability. And that empowerment is done by yourself from your own mindfulness. That is why he said at the beginning of this discourse, one and only way for the purification of beings, one and only way for the settlement of lamentation and sorrow, one and only way to eliminate suffering, dukkha, domanassa. I don't exactly remember the words. One and only way to go beyond what you know. One and only way to liberate yourself. So, to end the talk, I will say, I'm glad that you all are lucky enough to hear this and lucky enough to engage in it and practice to the best of your ability. And it definitely will give result. So don't be in a rush and take one step at a time, go slowly, and mindfulness itself will take care of everything if you do it without any expectation. Mindfulness has to be just an observation, no expectation. Any expectation, my teacher says, if you want to have any appointment, have an appointment with the disappointment. Because every time, everything will end up with disappointment. So if you have an appointment with disappointment, you will never be disappointed. Right? So I hope this talk will increase your faith in the practice, and you will have increased energy to be more mindful. And with that, I will conclude the session, blessing you with the blessings of the Noble Triple Gem. Sadhu, sadhu, sadhu. Right. So that is the end of listening supportive factor. And fortunately today, I did not punish you guys. I exactly exactly stopped when it was 60 minutes. Last time I kept on going. And Chatu complained and almost punished me. So anything to discuss, especially from you? Do you have anything that you don't know that you regarding the practice technique? Or question, comment, complaint?
I think like you said.
Just give me a second.
Yeah.
You need to hold this question. This is yeah. He's lazy.
I think like you said before, particularly it being my first time here, I'm barely scratching the surface. So actually, and you're saying that you said they have an appointment with disappointment is I'll never forget that. And
Thanks to my teacher.
Not having expectations and I guess learning to detach yourself from things. Easier said than done. I'm still attached to many things. While you were speaking, it was all just running through my head. So I think as long as we can keep practicing, like you said, to the best of our ability and do what we can,
yeah,
we'll be one step closer to that.
Yeah. Great. And the way to do is the practice, so we can see our attachment when we talk about the practice. So in discussions, what we basically do is, not that we are not asking other questions. What we basically do is we talk about our practice. We report about our practice. The practice that we do is walking practice and sitting practice. So we will have to give observations of the walking. Say, for example, when you say, okay, when I was walking, this is how I try to concentrate or have my attention to or be mindful of. Right. So, say, for example, sole of the feet. And then when I did that, I was able to do it. And if you're able to do it, then you should be able to say the observations. These are my observations. And I was not able to do it. Why? Because of these things. And then this is what I did. So that's the report. Right? And that shows all what you say. Whether you have expectations, whether you have energy to do what is supposed to be done. And it brings out the personal taints we have. Right? So when those personal taints have come out, then I'll throw a bucket of water till be washed away. Right? And you keep practicing based on those instructions. It becomes over a period of time, 6-7 months, 1 year, when you turn back and see, you are a different person. Right? Similarly, sitting, we will have to say, okay, I'm talking about sitting, and during my sitting, this is my main object. This is what I observe, and this is where I observe what I'm observing, and these are my observations. And I could not observe because of this reason. And this is what I did then. So that's that manner. We will have to provide reports. So since today is the first day, that's okay. So the next time, just start talking about those things. And we will be able to go further little by little. Okay. Anything else? So, just give me a second.
When I was walking outside, there was a slight breeze. Now, these little plants here aren't very tall, which are the ones that border. And the breeze was actually just touching the leaves. And I just stayed there and watched it. And it was so gentle, the way it was done. It wasn't going through the bigger trees. Well, it may have been, but because they're bigger, you wouldn't see the vibration. But through the little ones, which I thought was quite amazing because they're only small, but it was just like it was just kissing them as it's going through. And I just stayed there and watched it. It was lovely. It was really lovely. And I've never noticed that before. And yet I've been out here many times doing gardening and walking around, but it was the first time I actually looked and went, oh my God, it's hitting it. So that's what I observed. I didn't have a very good meditation. I actually went to sleep. I had to lay down. I was a bit tired. Well, I started to, and I thought I better lie down, so I did. So I didn't mean to be rude. It was just I'm a little exhausted, but to see that, that was really something special. Yeah.
So if I take that as a report, don't know whether you will like it or not. What I'm going to say now. I'm not quite sure whether you will like it or not. What I'm going to say now. Whatever you say. No, it's how our mind works. And to start with, you have been mindful. You have been mindful. That is why you are able to tell exactly what you were observing, right? That mindfulness has also been very strong to take your attention away from the leg, right? Yeah, I mean, it is good on one hand. It is why it is good is when you start walking, you try to keep your attention to the sole of the feet or the walking process. And it is not giving you any entertainment. It doesn't give you any pleasure, right? And it doesn't give you any hatred as well. It's a very neutral object, right? And so then since you have seen that neutrality, you have not been able to observe that neutrality, if I'm pronouncing it right, and stay with the leg. Mind has been looking for something smart or something pleasant, something pleasing, something soothing. And your mindfulness is sharp to see things now so close. Your mind is so sensitive now. And so therefore you see these finer things, but outside. Yes. No, I mean, not in your body. From being mindful, yeah, we try to be mindful of our body, lower part of the body in this case. Mind going out is natural, right? When it goes out, if you are mindful, you should be aware that it is gone now. Now I am observing this.
And then in that instant, you should actually bring yourself back. Which you allow you to enjoy the experience.
Because it only happens like that and it's gone.
If you enjoy that experience, it takes away the opportunity to be mindful. But when you say that it is gone like this, right, which means you have been aware of that. And then you should be able to say, when that happened, where did the mind come to?
Where's the mind?
Where did the mind come back to?
It came back to walking.
It came back to walking. That is a quality stuff. If it came back to walking, then you should be able to say, that is the resilience. Mind goes away, but you become mindful. Then it comes back, right? Yeah, it is. You don't try to hold on to anything. Let it go anywhere. Yeah, I am aware. As soon as you are aware, since you are not, you have enjoyed that as well. Even that has been aware of. And then it comes back because of the awareness. You know you are enjoying, or you know you are worrying, you know you are sad. Because of the object, you are aware, and then it gradually comes back. and you very clearly say it came back to walking, then it is even smarter to say, this is how I know I came back to walking. My attention came back to left foot doing this or right foot doing this. Then it's very perfect mindfulness. So it's much better than the report you produced. Right. And if you can keep on observing these cycles and telling this is what happens, this is what happens, we have control over the mind. It's not actually controlling the mind. We oversee the mind. Let it play whatever game it wants to play. We go behind like a spy or the detective.
I think if you don't like you were saying
The saying that you said at the end, sorry, I'm a bit tired. Yes, it's like if you fight this, if you just observe it and let it go and then go back to what you're doing. I found I've become a lot more efficient lately in my life in general. I can't believe how much you can achieve in a couple of weeks. Yeah, it's been like I look around where I am now and I feel like I've been there forever because everything's just where I want it. But I've done it without too much drama, even though I had a lot of drama happening. Things happen, but I just go, okay, that's there. We'll just let that go. And everything worked. And I just find your life starts to work better and everything starts, it's like your jigsaw starts to come together and it clicks.
It's the events are there. The events in life are there. We only make them a drama because we don't observe. And in that explanation you made, you don't let them go. You just become aware. Because of you become aware, they naturally go away. Yeah, there is no need to let them go. It goes.
it just goes naturally.
Yeah.
It's like it just goes out the door.
Yeah. But if you try to let them go away, then it is not real mindfulness. But when we explain it, it is not possible to avoid that word. But simply what we do is we just become aware, and it goes on its own. So when people are teaching, when people are preaching, they say you will have to let it go. You can't do that. More you try to let it go, you try to do something. What Blessed One says is don't try to do something. Take a step back and observe. Then there is no need for you to let it go. It is going. You're only trying to push it. Then it won't go. Won't go. Just observe. It will go gradually and you will get used to it gradually. Then now, once you are used to it, then you will start saying, wow.
But it's only made into it that's made it.
In a sense, to meditate or let things go because some people can't. And I can understand that. It's like saying when you're depressed, get over it. Well, you just can't. It's not something you get over. And it's very hard when people say that because they're not in the same thing. And it's the same when you've got to let something go, you don't want to. But in reverse psychology, if you do let it go, it becomes easy.
Yeah.
It's not an easy thing to do.
Can I ask you? Can I ask why it is not easy thing to do?
It's not an inherent skill that we have. We have to learn how to do this. And some people find it easy. Some people are very good meditators. It's like some people are very good solicitors, accountants, lawyers, whatever. It's a skill, and it takes a lot of work to get there, and unless you're prepared to put the work in, it's like riding a horse. It's like anything. You have to learn how to do it, and you have to stick at it, and you have to keep at it. And sometimes we sit and I'll meditate and it's not good, so I just get up and go and do something else. Before, I would force myself and say, no, you sit here until you've done it. You can't do that. You just can't. So if you let it go and do something else, it's like if you can't sleep. The worst thing to do is lie in the bed and turn over and over and over and over till you go to sleep. You're better off to get up and do something totally different, and then you'll go to sleep. It's like you have to train this, you have to trick it. I think that's just how.
My comment to that would be, it is difficult because we try here not to do anything. Why it is difficult is because we are trying just to stay observant. We don't have that capacity. We have capacity to go to the Mars from here. That capacity is there, that energy is there. But to just sit and stay. Before people retire, they make the retirement plan. Because they can't retire. But what the Blessed One says is, retire as quickly as possible. Retire every single moment. Don't do anything. Then when you don't do anything, naturally your capacity will be increased. Naturally, yeah. Naturally efficiency goes up. Right? And I want to talk about the sitting mindfulness that you mentioned, that you went to sleep, and also about the sleeping comment that you made. When you in the bed, if you don't fall asleep, what you should do is, it is no. If you keep rolling on the bed to that side and this side, then you are just struggling. That's okay. That's wrong. And completely getting up and doing something else, I would categorize that also as a reaction. Right? Instead, if you can be aware, I am not sleeping. I am awake. Just accept that. Right? Yeah. Then that subtle reaction, right? The perverted defilement, we call it, underlying tendency or mental corruption, can be tackled. Right? And even, I don't know whether you were tired when you were sitting, you lied down, you said. When that happens, don't lie down. When you are tired or when you are sleepy, try to sit and observe the information of your sitting posture or whatever you observe when you are tired. That is an opportunity for you to get additional information. And when you are sick, don't wait till you are well to do your sitting practice and walking practice. When the sickness is there, you try to do it so that you get additional information.
So you observe it and you're aware that you don't surrender.
Exactly.
I surrendered. I just got all my day out.
That's not a mistake. That everyone does that.
Oh.
And that has to be reported. Once it is reported, then we know what is to be done. Because mind will play all sorts of tricks. It will say, you are tired today, you are sleepy today, you are hungry today, it is raining outside. They will give billions of excuses, right, to escape. Right. But with all that, if you sit and practice, then mind will lose all its trumps.
I think the best thing that happened was the chiropractic.
Work out that my feet and back have when I walk, because everything clicks into place. My feet. It's all, you just don't realise how many bones and things are in your feet, and they click and carry on when I walk out here on that pebble craft. Yeah. And the same with my shoulders, my neck, and it's just as your body starts to relax.
When you feel anything on the sole of the feet, just try to, when you feel anything on the sole of your feet, just try to observe to what extent of your leg you feel it.
What extent?
In the leg you feel it. Say, for example, you feel coolness. See whether you feel the coolness only in the sole of the feet, or whether you feel it little bit higher up. That manner you bring the attention more and more into the body.
Oh, yeah.
And that will change the game. And
The reason why I use that,
it's
Because it
yeah,
point your feet with the massage as well. Because the Chinese believe in meridians and yes. Yeah, that's it. So it's, my feet feel great. I feel good now. Thank you.
no, even I love walking on this part because it is also a bit exposed. So it massages the feet. But only thing is, I don't like the wind. So I will have to wear my beanie or run inside.
Shouldn't you just accept that?
Thank you very much. I have tried that once when I was in Canberra. Everyone else was walking inside. It was in June. Yes. And it has been 3 degrees that day. But I said, no, I'm not going inside. I will bear it up. And I was able to walk whole 1 hour. I didn't feel cold. I was in my body. And then when you went and sat down, yeah, and came with fever.
You got sick?
Yeah, I got sick. I got sick. Right. So, anything else? You want to say something more?
I'd like the other thing I've observed too. It's a very interesting fact.
When we came here at 6:30, and I watched the sky change colour, because tonight it was, did you see that? It was blue, and then it was sort of pinkish, and then it goes to night time. And I find that the most fascinating time because it just changes, but it just does it so subtly. 1 minute it's just this sort of blue haze with a few clouds, and then all of a sudden it starts to turn to go to black, which I know it's the sun goes down and all of that, but it's an amazing process going from day to night. And things change and everything looks different. It's so different here during the day than when you come out here at night. And the other thing, I'd like to say, I had a girlfriend of mine many, many years ago trying to teach me to draw. Her name was Joanne Moriarty. Unfortunately, she's no longer with us. And she said, Leanne, she's a very good artist. She said, Leanne, when you draw, you must look at the trees and draw the shapes. Because I always drew the lines. And every time I come out here now, I realise what she meant. Because I look at those trees and it's actually, you draw the triangle or you do the circle. You don't actually draw the lines, it's the shape between the branches. And now I understand what she was talking about. Yeah, it's taken a bit long, but yeah, it's an interesting fact that if you look at it, and I can see it now, not that I'll be drawing, but I can see what she meant. Yeah, it's when you look at the trees, you can actually see the shapes, and you don't go the lines, you just draw the pieces in between.
Yeah. You have the ability to see the goodness in everything. So that's a very good skill. And if that skill can be brought in, then it's even better.
Inside yourself.
Into the body. As I said, when you walk, if you feel something on the leg, observe that bit more into the body.
So I can feel the pebble craft under my feet.
Um,
I can feel every stone as it goes through my foot.
Yeah.
Because when I first started here, I used to walk too fast. But as you walk slower, especially on there, you can feel each stone starting to go through, and then you feel it on the other foot. Yeah.
Keep on observing that and see to what extent you feel it. That sense.
What intensity?
Whatever. To what extent you feel that sensation. Because when you place the foot on the floor, right, it is giving a vibration to entire body. Right. So if you start observing to what extent you feel it in the body, your attention naturally start coming into the body.
Yeah.
If you get tuned with that vibration, your attention will be with that vibration in each and every step. So instead of therefore admiring the things outside, you will have an opportunity to admire things inside.
So what it's actually doing inside the body.
Yes. Yeah. Yeah.
I feel pain, not in my feet, but I do.
Since we are talking about the walking, these are the tricks of the mind. It doesn't want to talk about the walking. It wants to talk about the hand.
Yeah, well, I keep going, it's there,
Yeah.
on this.
Yeah. So if a hip that comes up, just observe and see whether it comes to the leg. When it comes to the leg, use that opportunity to see to what extent you're feeling. Yeah. Feeling the hand, it's not bad. I mean, it's still with the body, but it's shifting your attention.
Yes.
It is, yeah, mind is giving you the direction instead of you giving the direction to the mind. Right. Great. So are we time up today? First time.